Hello and welcome to Fantasy Football Weekly Podcast 05 with me, Fletchy. And I'm sure you've all tuned in this week to see the mighty Tomo Galacticos. Well, unfortunately, something out of his control. He's not able to join us tonight. I know it really, really is a poor show from Tomo, but we've got the star from last week back in again. It's Mr. Yo-Yo. How are we doing, Yo-Yo?
How you doing, Fletch? Good to see you, buddy.
Good stuff.
I'd like to say I was back because of popular demand, but the truth is, I'm back because of things out of Galacticos' control. A bit like his fantasy team, to be fair, out of control, isn't it?
Of course. Well, I texted you on, we were sort of bantering on Friday before the deadline and all that. And I said to you, I looked at his side and I wasn't pull off. And you had your reservations as well. And it's certainly backfired on him, hasn't it, right now?
Well, yeah, I didn't expect it to backfire so horribly that he'd bottle out on being on here on number 5, but there you go. It clearly was quite grim for him.
Yeah. Well, obviously, you know my thoughts on Kane this season. He stuck the armband on him, and he wasn't even at Wembley, and he's blanked already, which is nice. But yeah, it'll be very, very interesting to see what Tomo's thinking next week when he comes back, and maybe is there a possible wild card happening?
Well. He traditionally does like an early wild card, but game week 2, my God. But yeah, I think you're right. I did have reservations with what he was thinking. I mean, he's only really got 2 decent midfielders in there. I thought at the time it's mind-boggling from him, and to be honest, where it's caused him to be, I think, was he 4th from bottom? I think he's turned out. Yeah. It's as horrible as that. I think he'll need to have a real good look at that. And I agree, possibly a wild card on the horizon for Galacticos.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? I have to admit, I don't normally scroll down that far down, but to see Galacticos in 60th place in our mini league. It's fantastic.
Really the yo-yo here is used to being down that far and then yo-yoing straight back up, but I'd like to see how Galacticos is going to cope with it, because he's got a lot of work to do in game week 2.
Yeah, well, I think that's enough about Galacticos, as he's probably sitting in some lair somewhere trying to do his wild card. But it'll be very interesting next week to see his thoughts. What's your thoughts on your game week then? If you want to tell the viewers how you got on.
I think mediocre would probably describe it. Some good points.
What was your score?
I think I scored 56, I think. I think basically the captain choice. Had I got the captain choice, Jesus let me down a little bit, didn't he, as a captain choice? Yeah. But I think he'll make up for it as the season goes. I think if you look at the captain choice, that was the difference between where I am and maybe being up with the top boys. Apart from I can't remember the guy's name who was at the top, who absolutely nailed it, didn't he, on 104 game week?
He's top of Fantasy Football Weekly's. Tommy Routledge hit 104.
Yeah, incredible from him.
Really good week.
Incredible from him. I think obviously my captain choice was a bit of a disaster, and going forward, obviously I don't want to see Andre Gray sitting on benches. I think there was a possibility that would happen, because obviously he'd literally only gone there a few days before.
Yeah.
We know he's a fit lad anyway, so I thought he could have played. But I think in the next couple of game weeks, we'll probably see the best out of him getting 90 minutes. Other than that, I think I had 2 key areas where I've already taken moves to sort that out, shall we say.
Right. Well, we can discuss maybe transfers a little bit later. Right. Moving on to my game week then. I hit a pretty solid 74. Obviously nailed Lukaku captain. Went a safe pick. I was tempted by Jesus, but just that Super Sunday fixture 4:00. I did fancy Lukaku, and he looked good, to be fair. And then obviously my Huddersfield striker punt, which Tomo was ripping me for last week. The boy stepped up with a lovely brace. I don't know if anyone, any of the viewers, but I did say that you'd be thanking me on Monday morning. And he certainly, from the highlights, he looked like the real deal.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. When you mentioned him, I was kind of scratching my head, thinking, "What are you talking about?" But yeah, fair play to you. The guy looked, like he could be picking up points. I think you'll find he's going to be one of those where a lot of people didn't really know anything about him. Yeah. Probably the first they knew of it was when you commented on the guy. Because I'll put my hand up. I didn't really have a great deal of information about the guy, but yeah, he looked good, and I think Huddersfield's result in particular took us all by surprise, didn't it? But yeah, fair play. He looked good, and that was one you definitely called right.
Yeah, there was a few negatives in my team, to be fair. Number one would be James Milner. I know Tomo had him as well. I just didn't see him not starting. It didn't even enter my head. I don't know what your thoughts on Milner is now.
I think my thoughts are not so much on Milner. It's the fact that Moreno is there instead of him. I don't get that. I don't see him being right for Liverpool. I don't rate him as a player. I just don't get that at all. And I think having seen Milner last year, far better if he's going to play at that position. I think it would be a far better option than Moreno, but odd one for me because I think it was a good choice personally, especially if he's on pens. Which will he be? Won't he be? My feelings are if he plays, he will be on pens. I think he will if he plays, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, obviously he came on midweek where they won in Europe. He came on for Henderson. Yeah. And he played centre mid, and he put in the cross for the own goal. So is he going to start the weekend?
But you don't see that being a solution, though, do you? Him like with Henderson not being in there for him, that just isn't how they're going to go, is it? That's never going to happen.
Unless Klopp's just going to use him as a squad player and a useful sub. But with regards to fantasy-wise, he's got to go for me. I think probably not this week. I'm looking to make no moves. I'm set up well, and I might just give him one more week in there at home, and hopefully he starts. If he starts in centre mid, that's fine. Yep. So we'll see on that. But
yeah, I've looked at your team. I think you're fairly well set up without making any moves.
You've been stalking my team already, have you?
Yeah, well, you got to keep on top of these things, haven't we?
Yeah.
I traditionally make a lot of early moves because I go, like we discussed before, I go for team value. So I have made 2 moves.
You want to declare them now then while we're discussing our teams?
I'll say who I've taken out rather than who I've put in. But
okay.
I had to dump Holding after what I watched in the Arsenal game. I know that's something we're potentially going to discuss a little later on. But yeah, after watching that fiasco defence, it's like the Keystone Cops, wasn't it, at times? So he had to go, and I've got rid of Will Hughes. It wasn't something I wanted to do because I think when Hughes gets going in the Watford side, I think he's potentially good for assists rather than goals. But he had to go as well to make way for the 2 transfers.
Yeah, well, I was texting you during that first 60 minutes of that Arsenal game, and by 65, you were already contemplating a -4, weren't you?
yeah. The game hadn't even finished. It was so I couldn't believe what I was watching. It was incredible.
With regards to Holding, I'm a big fan, but he looked shaky, and I've not really seen him like that before. And I don't think Wenger will. Well, shall we talk about the Arsenal game then? Obviously, it was the first one Friday night. If you want to give your review on it.
Well, I suppose I kind of have almost given a review on it. I felt if that's the Arsenal going forward, I just don't know who I'm going to select for them because it was literally Keystone Cops at times, wasn't it? There was people just running around all over the place. So I felt, especially when Leicester were going at them, and fair play to Leicester, they went there, didn't they, and thought, well, let's have a go at it. And I think the minute you know, they were putting Arsenal under any kind of pressure, which they did for quite periods of the game, they just looked all over the place. And I know it's early season, it's one game, but for me, you're never picking up a clean sheet, are you? You know,
no.
Okay, if you're going to rely on defenders picking up a goal, which was the case, and if you was on him, then great. But no, for me, that's just too hit and miss. Didn't like what I saw from them at the back at all. Going forward, I hope we see more Ramsey, you know, because I think if he gets a good run in the side, for me, he's a class player who you know is going to get assists and goals. I think other than him, we still don't know the score with Sanchez. So I think, having seen what I did, I actually learned a lot more about Leicester maybe as an outfit than I did Arsenal. Arsenal left me scratching my head and puzzled as to what to do with them.
Yeah, I went into that game with no cover, so it was sort of a scouting mission for me. Really enjoyed the game, but yeah, from a defensive point of view, obviously the guy Tomo, the new left wing back, he got the assist. He got the assist. So yeah, at 6 mil, he looked good in attacking areas. Not so sure defensively, but and obviously looking at the strikers in that game, I thought Lacazette played well. When that first goal went in, obviously there was a few captains around in our mini league. I was thinking, God, is there going to be hat tricks on the cards or whatever? But
yeah, absolutely.
He's still one to monitor for me, but I was impressed with his movement. Even when he was coming wide, his crossings seemed to be pretty on the money as well. So I think, he'd be one I'll be looking at in the future, Lacazette. And,
I agree. I think going forward, you've got Arsenal options, but I think in defence, for me, I'd steer clear. But going forward, I think there's, like I said, Ramsey, Lacazette. Like I said, we don't know the outcome yet of Sanchez. So I think going forward, anyone can still make good choices on Arsenal players. But for me, leave the defenders alone at the moment.
Yeah, I think Ramsey's a really good shout. He looked he took his goal very well. I don't know how fit he is, whether he's going to start the weekend, but obviously, I know there's probably a few people with Zaha in their team. Looks like an ideal, because Zaha's out for 4 weeks, if people are not aware. Looks like an ideal replacement for the same money. Just thought I'd bring that to people's attention. But yeah, Ramsey's a great shout. But with regards to Arsenal, I'm just going to monitor them. I know they've got Stoke away coming up and maybe another away game after that. So for me, I'm just going to sit and wait on them, I think.
Yeah, wise choice, I think. Wise choice.
Obviously, you've shipped out Holding, so you'll be just watching Arsenal and scouting them, I guess, now. Yeah,
I have one of the guys I brought in, one of the transfers I brought in is an Arsenal, but it's not a defender. And my defender I've brought in, I'll tell you, it's the new West Brom newbie whose name I won't attempt to pronounce. But I went for him purely because West Brom, as normal, looked like they could pick up clean sheets. And basically the value, I put him in quite quickly, knowing I'd gain value on him. And let's face it, he can't be any worse right now than Holding, can he?
Yeah, well, you sent me that message saying you'd stuck the West Brom defender in, and I was kicking myself, to be honest, because I should have shipped Milner for him, to be honest. But 4-5 centre half for West Brom. Yeah, it's a decent move from you, I think. Yeah. Right, shall we move on to the Saturday games then? Obviously, the early kickoff was Liverpool. Have you got Salah in your side?
Yeah, he is my sole Liverpool. To be honest, I have to say he didn't impress me for potentially, 60 minutes of the game-ish, somewhere around there. I wasn't overly impressed with him, but I think that was maybe more with how Liverpool were playing rather than him personally. I think he was quite isolated at times. He wasn't really in the game. I was really kicking myself when I saw Mane's strike, and I thought, oh my God, here we go. But I still think, when you look at how many little chances, opportunities to create and score he had, I think he showed that given the opportunity, He is definitely a good one to have. And again, if you want to, if we to believe that Coutinho is definitely on his way, I think you've only really got two choices there, haven't you? You're either a Mane man or you're a Salah man. So for me, I'll stick with him. I think he potentially has got goals in him this season. So yeah, I was quite happy with the outcome in the end.
Yeah, obviously I heard the Liverpool team news, and I was watching Sky Sports News, and they read the team out, and I was like, I'm sure I didn't hear Milner's name on that team. Yeah, so it wasn't a great start to the Saturday. But then, yeah, I watched the whole game. I thought Salah, first half, he missed a few chances, didn't look like he was going to get anything. Then Mane popped up, and yeah, I felt the same. I felt like I should have gone down the Mane route. But second half, Salah was unbelievable, I thought. Yeah. I thought he could have had a hat-trick. He was all over the place.
Yeah, like big improvement. I'd say Liverpool as a whole, though, do you not feel there was maybe not as bad? And I don't want to take anything away from Watford, but did you not see? I felt there was the same disorganised chaos at times with their defence as what Arsenal had. I mean, the first goal from the corner. I mean, the biggest guy on the park, and they give him, 4 yards of space to do whatever he wants with. And in fact, it was a poor header, in my opinion, which Mignolet, I think, could have done better with. I know he was close in, but I felt even their defence at times just looked ragged. Could be early season, I don't know, but didn't like it at all.
Yeah, from corners and set pieces, they're always Klopp's record is shocking in the Prem. I think he does the zonal marking, which I'm not a fan of myself, but defensively, yeah, obviously Milner, I picked him for sort of pens, and if he was playing left back, then I thought he might get a few crosses in. But yeah, I'm not looking at anything defensive wise. Obviously, I picked Henderson in pre-season. I thought he was quite a nice price at 5.5, but I got slated for that.
Agreed.
But if he's playing every week, I still believe could be a slight option, but we'll see on that.
Yeah, I think my opinion on Henderson would be at 5.5. I think
maybe a fifth mid, play him at home.
Yeah. I still think you could get better value at 5.5, potential more goals or assists than Henderson. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what his assist or goals record is, but I don't think it's as good as a lot of other players around the 5.5 bracket. So he wouldn't be one for me.
No, that's fair enough. Well, let's stop talking about Henderson because I'll get slated for it anyway. But right, let's move on to some of the 3 o'clock games then. Obviously, we've talked about my Huddersfield boy, and obviously I know a few people went down the Palace route because on paper that looked like a nice fixture. What do you think about that sort of opening result? It was a real shock, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it is one of those where, if you happen to have, your fifth mid or your fifth defender or, as you did, the boys scoring the goals, if you happen to be on that, it could be deemed a great call. But I think, generally speaking, no one expected that to be the result, did they? Who could possibly have seen that coming? So I think anyone that did just, for me, got lucky. I can't imagine, and I'm not taking anything away from Huddersfield, I can't imagine that being a week in, week out scenario. I can't actually, off the top of my head, I can't remember Huddersfield's fixtures.
Well, I know them very well because obviously I've got an asset in there. They're very good. They've got 3 home fixtures and 4.
Have they?
Yeah, Newcastle turning up. Also, another one of their midfielders that impressed was Moy. Yep. He looked very good on match today. I think he's 5'5". Don't quote me on that, because obviously I've got the striker, so I've not studied their midfield too much. But certainly look at the fixtures for anyone watching.
But then again, it will take a few weeks to see how they set up at home compared to away, won't it? They could potentially set up very differently at home. And I'm not going to say I know that much about them. I should maybe coming out of the Championship because, as you know, I do watch a lot of the Championship games, so I should potentially know more of them than I do. But I couldn't honestly say how I think they will set up, week in, week out.
Yeah. Well, obviously they play one up top with my boy, basically. But they're on Sky on Sunday, so
Be worth having a look.
Yeah. They're playing Newcastle, so you got to think there's a few goals in there for them. And if my boy produces again, he could skyrocket in value and price.
Yeah, I think you'll find a lot of people will look at that as potentially a one-off, but if he does it again, I think he's going to be on everyone's radar, isn't he?
Yeah. Okay, shall we move on to the shock of the weekend then? Obviously, Chelsea.
I was going to say, were you deliberately avoiding your boys or what?
Yeah, I'll just go and put the dinner on. You can chat for 5 minutes about Chelsea.
I know why we didn't start with this, because we probably wouldn't have got off of them, would we? I tell you what, I'll return it to you immediately before I say anything, because you know them in far greater depth than I do. But generally speaking, what is going on there? Tell me. I mean, we won't even get on the Costa saga.
I don't know
what is going on there.
Well, let's talk about the game. Obviously, Cahill, he's not great bringing out from the back. He's lunged in. From my first impression, I didn't think it was a red, but I've not seen it close up. Everyone else is telling me it's a red, so fair enough. And I think it was one of those days where, I don't know if you've seen the Stephen Ward goal. Christ almighty, he won't ever hit one of them again in his life.
No, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
And that centre mid, he put in the ball for the Vokes for the 3-0. He probably won't put a cross like that again all season.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I
think Vokes was one. I think when we were talking third strikers, I think he was one that didn't even get a mention. Now, again, he is potentially one that people could maybe keep an eye on, because if he's going to perform like that, week in, week out, then he'd be great value.
Yeah, I don't know, as long as there's blood pumping through my veins, I'm not sure I'll have Vokes in my side, but who knows?
well, nor would I, but, I don't want everybody having everyone that I have. So, for some of you, Vokes is worth having a look at.
Oh, no, definitely. Just going back to Chelsea, some positives I've taken. Yeah. Well, with 9 men, it looked like it was a hell of an effort to try and get back to 3-3. And obviously, Morata come on. He got the real deal, didn't he, to be fair?
Yeah, I've got to be honest. Yeah, I really toyed with Morata pre-season. In fact, I had him in at one point. I took him out at one point. I had him back in and shoveled things around again. And I just felt that it was actually against Arsenal that I thought, no, do you know what? I think he might need a few game weeks in the Prem to get up to speed. But yeah, to be honest, I think from a Chelsea point of view, he was without doubt one of the plus points from that game. I think if he, again, a bit like Vokes, if he can perform as he did when he come on, I think without doubt you'll find within a few weeks people will be lumping him back in. And let's face it, I don't see the Chelsea we've seen in the last 2 games. I don't think that'll be the Chelsea we see once things settle down there, assuming they do. But who knows what's happening there at the moment?
Yeah, obviously I went for Alonso. I think in the end you didn't go with a Chelsea defender, did you? Which looks like a good move now, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah, I got that one right.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. It wasn't for any great thinking. It more came down to value of what I could put in there, because I wanted to go strong across the midfield and strong up front, which I think, if you have a look at my game week points, suggests that that's where the majority of my points came from, with the exception of one defender and my goalie. Foster, for me, is always good value. Proved to be the case again. But yeah, I'm not sorry I didn't go Chelsea on this occasion. And here we are talking about a defence again. I think when we're looking at all the FPL defences, I think you're looking outside of what are potentially your big 6 to pick up some good points at the moment. Because we've just mentioned 3 of the teams that are potentially going to be the top 6, and all 3 defences look in disarray, don't they?
Yeah, just one final comment on Alonso. Obviously, Spurs away coming up, but even from the highlights, he had, took a great free great free kick that Heaton tipped away, and he also had another shot.
Yeah, he did.
So for me, he stays long term. I know last week I said I'd probably play him every week, but I'm tempted to bench him actually on Sunday because I don't fancy our chances. But who knows? We could easily go there shop.
Well, he is one of those players, isn't he? Like I referred to earlier, that you even if a defence performs poorly, you can pick up the defenders, i.e. like Alonso, who even if they don't keep a cleanie, he could easily have an assist or score a goal. So he is always reasonable value, even if Chelsea's defence itself doesn't look, at one at the moment.
Okay, well, moving on, obviously we're talking about clean sheets. Obviously, there was a lot of talk in pre-season about Southampton, Cedric, Yoshida, Forster, well, they got the 0-0. Obviously, it doesn't sound like in attacking areas, obviously they didn't score, and it sounded like a pretty boring game. But from the defensive point of view, I know some people double upped on, Bertrand or Forster or Bertrand and Cedric or whatever. I went with Yoshida myself. Did you have any Southampton cover?
Yeah, I did. I went with Cedric.
Okay.
I think I didn't actually see a great deal of that game, just some of the highlights, which I think lasted 30 seconds. Yeah. It wasn't great.
And just another shout out to Tomo, who stuck in Gabbiadini late on Friday.
So, another reason why he's not sitting here at this moment in time. Again, I've got to be honest, I did wonder on a Gabbiadini choice from him. But it obviously didn't work out. I suppose Southampton are the opposite to what we've just been talking about the top 6 teams and the defences in disarray. They are the complete opposite. From the highlights I saw, they were quite solid, but didn't offer a great deal going forward. So maybe the value in Southampton would be potential clean sheets, but avoid Gabbiadini, Galacticos.
Yeah, I think if anyone's watching and they don't have any Southampton cover, I'd be sticking some in, definitely, because with those fixtures, Cedric probably is the preferred option. I was slightly worried that he wasn't going to start on Saturday. That's why I went down the Yoshida route, but I think you can flick a coin with them, basically. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think I wouldn't necessarily risk 2 of them, which some people have, but I think without doubt, a Southampton defender, and like you say, I agree completely. You could flick a coin between any of them, and you'd probably be okay.
Okay, good stuff. Right, shall we move on to City then? I don't know if you watched the game, did you?
I did see some of the City game, but couldn't see it all. Obviously, from my own personal point of view, a little bit of disappointment from a captain selection. That said, let's be fair, he was very unlucky, wasn't he? I could be sitting here saying that actually, he's my captain and I've just picked up 20, 22, 24 points with him. I think he was extremely unlucky on the day.
I thought that handball was absolutely shocking decision. I know it's only 1 point, but I couldn't believe it when he was on the ground, struggling to breathe. And who was the ref? I can't remember. Might be Oliver. But he was waiting there with a yellow card. I could not believe it.
Yeah, it did seem a bizarre one, didn't it? I mean, like you say, it made his mind up so quickly, and I thought, it was an odd one. But from him personally, I think anyone that has got him on the day would just... I'd stick with him, because I think there was enough. I think we discussed last week. I said that I fancy City to score hatfuls this year. And I still stand by that. I think going forward they're going to be a tremendous force. They could have assists and goals coming from everywhere. I tell you who I was very impressed with, and I could potentially have got room for a third City, but I thought Silva, showed what he is for me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, he played well in there. I do worry that he might get rotated at times, but with no Champions League around, he's probably nailed on start at the moment. Did you go with KDB as well in the end?
I did, yeah.
I thought it was quite quiet for him.
Yeah, I'd want a little bit more from him, to be honest. But again, a bit like Jesus, I think give him time. It's one of those, I think, where you're not going to be on the end of everything or supplying everything all the time. But I think going forward, I wouldn't panic too much if you've got him in your side. I'd sit tight because I think he'll come good.
Yeah, good stuff. Obviously, a little shout out to Brighton because I thought they played really well for 65 minutes. Obviously, the guy lapsed in concentration, then they got punished, which they're going to find out at this level. But I thought defensively they looked solid, and obviously when the opposition's not as good as City, I think they're going to penetrate as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they do at home and in the next few fixtures, Brighton.
Like I said earlier on, I watch a lot of the Championship, and unlike Huddersfield, where I weren't quite certain how they were set up, Brighton didn't surprise me at all. Last year they were an absolute solid outfit. They gave nothing away, and I wouldn't be surprised if they keep, especially at home against the mid to lower Prem sides, they'll be keeping clean sheets. So I think if you've got a Brighton defender, even if it's your fifth, if they're at home against a mid to lower level side, I'd definitely be having a Brighton defender in there. Well worth it.
Good stuff. Right, let's move on to the Spurs boys then. Obviously, we had pretty strong views about them last week. I watched the game. I think I watched every game, to be honest. But I thought they were very, very flat first. Well, just until the red card. I thought Kane looked like his normal August form. Never scored a goal in August.
Yeah, incredible from him.
And people are paying 12.5 and putting captain's armband on him.
Yeah.
I know it's easy to say now because on paper it looked like a decent fixture. Said about Spurs, I don't really change my opinion after watching that game.
Well, I think it was one of the points of 3 or 4 points I think last week that I had to sadly agree with you on at the time. I think our views on Spurs are the same. And I took a lot of stick from certain friends, especially on the Kane situation. I was told he's a must. I'm glad I steered clear of him. Maybe even the Spurs supporters themselves, because a particular Spurs supporter gave me a lot of grief over it. And maybe he didn't realise he just doesn't notch in August. And now we've got to go back. Isn't it? It's brilliant. And now he's got to go back to his home ground, where I think they're going to struggle anyway. So I still will be steering clear of Spurs players. Well, I've got Ali, so I don't want to contradict myself, but I'll certainly at 12.5. Yeah, I won't be touching Kane with a barge pole. I just think you're going to get more goals from other areas for better value than 12.5 on Kane. I won't bother.
That's the problem, because at 12.5 you need a goal every game.
Absolutely.
It's all right. He might notch against Chelsea, but are people going to put the captain armband on him now? I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see what Tomo does, because obviously he backed him this week. Will he back him again? Be very, very interesting.
I think I could be proved wrong. Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time, but I do believe that Wembley is going to he's going to cause Spurs more problems than anything. Every single team that go there, especially your Huddersfields, your Brighton, because you're going to have your players at Liverpool, Man United. They've played at big venues. They're big. The big venue, big stadium players. Your teams like Brighton, your Huddersfield teams like that, they're going to go there. A lot of them have probably never played at Wembley. They're going to raise their game, a long, long way. And I think it could turn around to bite Spurs in the backside. And so I'll be steering clear of it.
Yeah, I'm happy with my Ali cover. Like I said in pre-season, when Trippier comes back, he could be an ideal replacement for Milner for me, but obviously I don't know the time scale on that. But I'm pretty happy with Ali in there at 9.5. He looked lively. Obviously, he was involved in the shenanigans and whatever. But going forward, I think obviously we both got Salah and Ali as top attacking midfield options. I think they're looking like really good picks, to be honest.
I couldn't agree more. I know there was shenanigans, like you said, but I think. It's hard to know what Shelby was thinking, really, wasn't it? I don't know if anyone's got him. To be honest, I haven't seen anyone select him, but The boy was just crazy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's given us bald men a bad name, isn't he? It's not good. But all right, well, moving on from Spurs, because we don't like chatting about Spurs for too long, do we?
No, we don't.
Should we move on to another club we probably both hate? Of course, it's Man United. And obviously, of course, after I ranted about Pogba for about 2 minutes, he got lucky in the 89th minute and popped up with a goal that Hart should have saved. But what's your thoughts on United? Obviously, Lukaku was the big one.
Yeah, Lukaku, obviously. I mean, like I referred to earlier, had I have captained him, he's in my side, had I captained him, my points tally would probably be very close to your own. I think there is no doubt when you watch him, he looks like he wants to be there. He looks hungry, and I have no doubt he's going to be a captain nailed on for some people week in, week out. I thought United were a very different side to what I saw against Real Madrid. I don't like to say it. I thought, it's hard to know. Were they that good, or were West Ham pretty awful? Because West Ham were woeful at times, weren't they? To be fair, they just didn't look interested. And Arnautovic looked like the same Arnautovic at Stoke last year. He just didn't even look like he could be bothered at times, And I think he is a quality player, So yeah, were Man United great, or were they very poor? Maybe we'll see in the next few weeks, according to who comes up against Man United. That said, you can only perform against what's put in front of you, and I thought they looked a very good outfit. They look solid. They look good going forward. Pogba, I agreed with your comments on him last week, and there you go. It comes back to bite you, doesn't it? But without doubt, you can see why. 52%? I think Lukaku. Teams have got Lukaku, and you can see why he's going to score a lot of goals.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on this Swansea? I know it's the early kickoff, which puts some people off, Captain. It puts me off, but what's your thoughts on Swansea away? Do you think they're going to go there and it's going to be comfortable, or what's your prediction for that game?
I think they'll win fairly comfortably. Yeah, okay. I do. I don't really know what Swansea got to offer this season. I think Swansea could be in a lot of problems. I'd be very, very surprised if by Christmas Swansea aren't struggling to stay out of the bottom three. I really do. I think the only thing that will keep them out of the bottom three, I think there's potentially 3 quite poor teams there. I think United will go there and be fine.
The thing with Swansea is they don't really lose like 3 or 4-0, do they, at home? That's why I think it could be tight. If there's not an early goal, I think United will probably go there, maybe win 2-0, but you just never know.
Yeah, 2-0. I think 2-0. I don't see enough threat with Swansea to maybe score against them. I think they're struggling with 1 or 2 injuries as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
And obviously they've just lost Sigurdsson, haven't they, now, which we all probably knew was going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
But obviously that was confirmed yesterday, I believe.
Yeah.
So I think they've lost a huge attacking threat there, haven't they? So I honestly can't see Swansea scoring. I think so. Anyone that has got United defenders, I think that's potentially a big clean sheet for them.
Yeah, well, I went down the De Gea route. Basically just based on the fixtures, and I'm pleased I did, especially with that Lindelof wasn't even in the squad. And from Jose's quotes, any owners, you've been it's not looking good for you, I don't think. And obviously anyone who was bold enough to pick Jones at 5 is looking like a really nice shout. I'm not sure about long term, but short term could be a very worthy punt for people. Have you made your decision on captain then? Are you going Lukaku? Are you looking at Jesus again? Where are you looking?
I fancy City. I know I did last week.
Yeah.
I think it's a 50-50 decision, but I think the fact that United are away, City are at home, I'm going to favour City. So I think I'll be sticking with him.
Yeah, I think it'll be a last minute decision for me. It will be between Lukaku and Jesus. Liverpool hadn't played midweek, I might consider Salah, but I'm worried he might come off early because I do think there's goals there for Liverpool on Saturday. But
right. Do you think going forward, while we're on City, do you think going forward that he will stick with this Aguero and Jesus up front? Do you think he'll stick with the two? Because if so, look, we all know if Aguero's playing, he scores, doesn't he? You know, so do you think there's a potential shout for having the two of them?
Well, obviously, I've been in the Jesus camp, for all pre-season, and I thought he was the most nailed-on striker. I didn't think Aguero would start long-term for Pep this season, but obviously, based on Saturday, you got to think they're both starting up top together again. I think he's just going to rotate formations when Sane's back fit, when Sterling's back fit, when everyone's fit, when the other Silva plays. I think he could rotate in a number of formations. Obviously he played the three at the back, didn't he? He could easily play four at the back in certain games. I just think there is going to be, obviously when Champions League comes around, there's going to be a lot of rotation. Going in with, if you're considering going in with Aguero and Jesus, I think now's the time to do it, because once Champions League comes around, he will rotate his team. But right now, I can't see him changing a winning side. Can you?
Well, he went with the two of them together, didn't he, pre-season? And and it looks like he's sticking with it now. But I do agree, as soon as Champions League comes along, he has got to drop one of them for the game before Champions League, hasn't he? And then obviously rest the other one potentially and bring him back in for the Champions League. Because I personally think he'll go one up top for the Champions League, which means whichever one he doesn't play that game week that beforehand will be the one that plays in the Champions League.
Yeah. Do you think, obviously, when the Champions League comes around, do you think you'll be looking to just have one Man City asset? Because the likes of KDB and Jesus, you might get 1 week where they both don't play. You're just looking to maybe, obviously, if Sanchez and Hazard's back, you might be looking elsewhere possibly.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one because I didn't expect the two of them to be up front anyway. So it's going to be hard to call, I think, until we see what he does. I think it's going to be hard to call what Pep is going to do with the Champions League. I think potentially De Bruyne is one of those who can play week in, week out anyway. So I will still take a punt and leave him in, but with the view that I'd cover myself with a good first sub coming in the event that he doesn't play him. But I think he's one of those who could play week in, week out, 2 games a week. I don't think it's a problem for him. But I just feel the problem would be up front, actually, because I can't imagine he'll play 2 up top in Champions League games. Potentially at home he might, but he certainly won't away.
No, good stuff. Well, I think we've covered, the only game we haven't covered, I believe, is obviously the Rooney goal. Another person I slated last week. To be fair, it was a really good header from him.
Yes, so here's the tip, everybody. Wait to see who Kev slates and then put them straight in your team. Yeah, that's very true, to be fair. I don't think I've slated too many today, so yeah. Thanks for stepping in for Tomo. Much appreciated. You've been a top guest as always. And hopefully he comes back next week with his tail between his legs and hopefully a wild card used. Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure. It was at short notice, so I hope, we did all right. I guess if we see Galacticos next week will depend on his game week. So if he has an absolute stink, I'll get ready to be sitting here again.
You could be a full-time host, who knows? Yeah, the way things are going.
Well, for the sake of everyone watching, let's hope not.
Yeah, to all the viewers, please subscribe and again tell your friends. We've got Yo-Yo on now. If people are enjoying the podcast and maybe want to get involved, drop us a message. Write questions again each week. Definitely want to hear about your first game week and any transfers or captains you're looking at. I think that's a good night from me, Fletchy.
Yep, and good night from me. Good luck, everyone. Game week 2.
Cheers, Yo-Yo.